Okay, folks, just wanted to show you some dialogue balloon tech that absolutely blew my mind. Now, back in the day, around 1998, I actually scripted and lettered comics. And as much as you might want to think that all of this dialogue balloon placement is intuitive, it totally is not. I have seen really, really bad dialogue placement in my time. And what you really want to do when you're placing dialogue is you want to make sure you respect the basic rules of the readers generally reading in the United States and other Western countries, of course, from left to right and from up to down, and generally in a diagonally left to right downward fashion, or else you're going to get things, out of sync, out of confusion. And depending on how much space the artist leaves you to put dialogue balloons, sometimes you can run into trouble about where you can place your dialogue. You wind up getting cramped out, and all of a sudden, the words that the script calls for are not going to fit where the scripter thought that they were going to fit. And in those cases, the letterer has to get creative. Now, I've been reading comics for a long time, and I'm going to show you a technique that just about got me out of my chair when I saw it. And I don't know if this is something new, if this is something that was invented just for this book, but it was so just staggering to see it, largely because the majority of the book is just so plain vanilla when it comes to its lettering. It's just got good, solid, well placed lettering all the way throughout. And the book I'm talking about is the second volume in Kurt Busiek's and Carlos Pacheco's series, Aerosmith. And this is the volume Behind Enemy Lines, six-issue series. It's the sequel to the first volume, which was Aerosmith, So Smart in Their Fine Uniforms. It's the story of Fletcher Aerosmith, who's an American who volunteers for World War One. Except in this world, World War One is fought largely with magic. You have these little dragonettes who are able to power these stones that allow the soldiers to fly. And so you've got a lot of magical combat. You've also got a lot of different races like trolls and orcs and elves who participate in the fighting. It's a very, very fantasy type Earth. And so you've got this soldier in World War One, and he's having to go through some of the hell that is war. It's really some of Kurt Busiek and Carlos Pacheco's finest work on both their sides. I mean, some of Kurt Busiek's best writing, some of Carlos Pacheco's best art. It's all solid all the way through, and I highly recommend these books. I will be providing Amazon affiliate links in the video description for both of these. Now, on Aerosmith Behind Enemy Lines, the lettering and design is attributed to Comicraft's Tyler Smith and Jimmy Badencourt. And they do a fantastic job throughout the book of just doing really, really solid lettering. And there's nothing that any reader, new or old, is going to look at and find hard to follow. You've got the standard dialogue balloons with their connectors, and then you've got occasional irregular balloons to signify the gravelly voice of the rock troll. And it's all mostly, occasionally you'll get some larger lettering to signify an increase in volume. You've got your standard bolding and italicizing for emphasis. It's all very standard lettering, but it's all done very well. But in issue number 6, there's a particular thing that just, oh my God, it just staggered me. And it starts with a scene in which Aerosmith is being taught some of the basic principles of magic. And so you have the standard up to down flow of dialogue where you've got a little bit of left to right diagonal, come down here. Here you've got more up to down. It goes a little bit to the left because you're dealing with the character off to the side. And then, and I swear to God, just hold on to your seat. Look at this. Look at this. You start from left to right, and you've got this first dialogue balloon, and you know it's not Fletcher Aerosmith's balloon because there's nothing connecting it to him, so it must be the other guy who's in the panel. But look at where the connector goes. The connector goes behind the foreground art. Oh my God. I don't know if I've ever seen that before, and I've been reading comics for like 40 years. this is just a brilliant technique. And I don't know. I mean, it could be that comic book letterers have been doing it for so long and I've just never noticed it. But when I saw this was like, oh, because of course, they could have gone just straight over what was here. And I think, there might have been a little bit of cause for complaint, like, wow, that's a little bit awkward as far as stomping on the artwork. But to put it behind like that and to have it connect so well, and to just still be a intuitive stream of dialogue from one portion to the next. Oh my God! I've just never. This really blew me out of my seat. So of course I had to go back through the rest of the book and I had to see if they'd done this at any point before because I could have sworn that I'd never seen it before. Well, it does happen like two other times, but it's so blink and you'll miss it. You'll forgive me that I didn't spot it. In issue number 4, there's a brief moment where you have a downward connector go behind the tiny dragonette. I mean, seriously, blink and you miss that. It's very easy just to imagine that what you really saw was this connector come in front of the dragonette. And then there, in issue number 5, there's a brief moment where a sigil that's being painted in the air is covering the connector. And so you're not getting any interference from the dialogue balloon there. But again, it's so small, it's so just blink and you'll miss it that I can be forgiven for thinking that maybe this was actually in front all along. But oh my goodness, just to have seen that particular just masterful use of a connector hiding behind the foreground art, and yet still clearly visible, clearly doing the work of connecting. The only other time in the book that they get any particular fanciness is when they're doing a remote viewing spell, and so they use the magic in the remote viewing spell to cover up sort of some of the words that really aren't that important. And you can see that this is like saying we kind of can hear in, but we kind of can't. And it doesn't really matter what it is that they're covering up, which is another good rule, is that if you're going to wind up engaging in any kind of art funkiness that covers something up, you don't want to cover up really meaningful material. I mean, unless that's specifically your goal, but otherwise leave the meaningful material in the foreground and keep only the meaningless stuff in the back. So I just want to give a shout out to Tyler Smith and Jimmy Betancourt. Their work on Aerosmith Behind Enemy Lines is just superb. That particular dialogue trick is just absolutely mind blowing. And I swear, if that isn't enough to put them up for an Eisner nomination this year, I don't know what is. So thanks everyone for watching this. I hope you appreciated that as much as I did. I just thought that was a spectacular move by these two, and and just one of the things that I always say is that one of the true marks of a professional is knowing when to bring these techniques out of your bag and when to leave them in. This was 6 issues in which they could have made many different uses of that kind of technique, and they used it only 3 times. Only 3 times, and then in that particular remote viewing sequence, they used it only once. That's just astounding, and it shows the kind of restraint and knowledge and awareness that a professional has on how to do this kind of work. And so my hat's off to the two of them. I hope to see more of their work in the future. I hope they get to continue on with the next volume of Aerosmith whenever that comes out, hopefully soon. And other than that, I'm Mike Partika. Thanks for watching this commentary. Do subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you later.